Well, here we are on the dark side again, working on a Mercedes. It's the wife's car, so I better make sure I do this right. Let me start by telling you a little story. My wife purchased 4 new tyres for this vehicle back in 2018. And I didn't drive the car for quite some time, and then when I did drive it I said, oh dear, your wheel bearings have given out, we need to put new wheel bearings on. So I went ahead and purchased some aftermarket wheel bearings and seals for the front wheels. Very, very nice ones too. Put them on, and the rumbling didn't go away, unfortunately. So I thought, alright, well, maybe it's another part, maybe it's the differential, maybe it's the rear wheel. But I noticed it was a lot worse when I hit the brakes. So I decided that could be those front rotors. They are drilled and slotted rotors, so I bet they're causing it. You know, they've been on there since new. It's definitely time to replace them. So I got some new rotors and put them on. And it didn't make a blind bit of difference. But while I was doing it, I was looking at the tyres, and they were both worn on the inside. So I thought, oh rats, I'll have to get the local tyre shop to spin them round, because the outside was still pretty good. And then I thought, that's probably been caused by tracking being off. My wife assured me that when she had the tyres replaced, that she saw them do the tracking. So I thought, maybe it's not that, maybe it's camber cast, I'm not sure. But I was still looking at the tyres thinking, there's something odd here, I cannot figure out what it is. Then on very close inspection I realised the tread patterns looked slightly different. Why? Well, because the driver's side front tyre had been fitted inside out. These are directional tyres. They're different size to the back as well. They are directional. The outside has to go on the outside, the inside has to go on the inside. Logical. The people that fitted them was Discount Tyre, and I complained to them about it, and they sorted out the problem for me. Then we drove it away. The rumbling was gone, completely gone. However, since I'd already replaced the wheel bearings and seals, the ABS and ESP light are on. Why? Because the aftermarket seals do not contain a magnet such as the Mercedes ones do. And if your vehicle has the same kind of seal, unfortunately you do need to get them from Mercedes. Just thought I'd give you that story in case you're wondering why I'm going to replace brand new seals and bearings with more new seals and bearings. Not that you knew I'd put ones in anyway, but there you go. So first job is to take off the wheel, and that is done with a 17mm socket, and I've got this special long one that reaches all the way in and doesn't damage anything. Alright, I won't show you me taking the wheel off, that's kind of silly, but I'll show you once I get in there. And just to add what I was talking about, here you can see it says outside, and on the other side, and I'm not going to show you, it does actually say inside. So it is very important when these tyre companies fit these that they are fitted the right way round, otherwise it causes all sorts of problems. And I gotta tell you, Discount sorted this out very quickly for me. They were very good in what they did. So sometimes it helps to complain. Now the next thing to show you is the kit. This is the outer wheel bearing, this is the inner wheel bearing, and this is the infamous seal. And you have to be careful when you put these in. Don't damage them, don't push them in too far, and I'll show you that Also, being Mr. Doubter that I am, I thought, I bet it's not magnetic. Okay, it's not a strong magnet, but as you can see, that is magnetic. So it really does pay, in most cases, unfortunately, to buy dealer parts. Kind of disappointed they didn't supply a new cap, but hey, it's not it's not shown, so I guess that doesn't matter. But nonetheless, it would have been nice in a kit, shall we say. Alright, next thing I got to do is take off this caliper, and then take off this screw, pull the rotor off, then pull the hub off, but there's a nut in here that has to come undone. It's a special nut. And I do like Mr. Mercedes in certain areas, the way these pads come out. You just tap these pins and they pop out backwards, and then this clip comes off, and then you can just pull the pads out nice and easy. I will show you that in a few moments' time. Alright, now it is time to remove the brake pads. And what you do is you get your little drift and tap those pins out. Same on the bottom one. Just grab it on the other side, push it down with your finger. That makes it come out easy. And once you've done that, this is real easy on the bottom here. Okay, put these to one side, ready, with the tools you've already used. And the next thing will be to undo, the next thing to do will be to squeeze these pads and just get them back. Let me get the tool for that. I don't know what you call these. In England we used to call them plumber's pliers or 5-holes. Why do we call them plumber's pliers or 5-holes? Because basically the plumbers were always the guys using these things. And 5 holes because they used to have 5 holes in them and you would adjust it, but now modern design with these slots. Now my pads should, there you go, come out nice and easy. Plenty of meat on these pads. And as you you saw the caliper move there, I've already cracked the nuts on the back, and you don't have to, in fact don't take these off, because then you break all the seals and you're being a hell of a mess. Now you could take the caliper off of the bracket here. I like to take the whole thing at once if I can. Okay, so I'm not going to show you me undoing the bolts. The bolts are at the back there, you undo them, get the caliper out of the way. I have a piece of rope here that I've put already on the upper control arm. That's to hang the caliper on. You do not let it rest or hang on the flexible pipe. Will it break? Not necessarily. Could it? Yes. Could it stretch? Yes. Could it damage it? Yes. What happens then? You don't realise it. You go down the road, you put your brakes on, and bugger all happens. And that poor guy in front of you finds out very rapidly you're using him as a brake. Not good. So, I'll get this caliper off, and then I will move on to the next thing, which will be to remove the rotor and then remove the hub. Give me a second. Just a couple of things to add. A lot of people use bungee cords here. I prefer rope. Why? Because it's infinitely adjustable. Bungee cord is, you know, great, it's quick. That's the disadvantage of the rope. It takes a little longer. To me, that doesn't really matter. It means I can get it exactly where I want it out of the way. The bolts that hold this caliper on to the main part of the hub there is an 18mm, and the Torx bit for this screw here, which holds on the rotor itself, that is a 30. And well, another thing to note, guys, you see on these threads there is some residue. That residue is Loctite. You should always use Loctite when putting calipers on. Now you've got a choice of red or blue. If you use red, that is a high strength one. That is very difficult to get off. I use blue. It's a medium strength. It's been used by me and many a mechanic for years and years, and I've never had any problem with the caliper coming loose. So just a little suggestion for you, and of course anything I say you can take with a pound of salt. Okay, now we just got to undo this. And do note these rotors will only go on one way, because if that screw's not there holding it, guess what? The holes don't line up for the wheel. Also do note I now have my tray out, which I should have done at the beginning but never got round to it. And also I like to keep the tools I've used close at hand because I know I'm going to need them to put it back. Okay, rotor is off. Let me place that over here. And do note I will clean that before I put it back on because I've touched it with my hands. Alright, here is the hub. Next trick, get this little beastie off here with our little chisel. There's our little chisel gun. That one should do it. We have the hammer over here already because we used it. And then we just gotta tap this off. Move all the way around. Gentle tapping. This one has definitely been off quite a few times. Alright. And this is that magical nut. For that you need an Allen wrench to remove it. Let's go for a walk. Grab a set of Allen wrenches. Metric, of course. Not sure what this one is. Can't remember. Let's try... let's try this, which is 5. It is a 5. Okay, so that is the one you need. Just loosen that, and then it undoes. As simple as that. And again, I should be cleaning all of this up. And don't lose that nut, it's special. Make sure when you put it on the right way round. See, it's got a slightly raised lip, and that goes on the inside because that rests up against the bearing there. Now, you just grab hub and pull off. As simple as that. There is the bearing that has, well, it doesn't have to be replaced, but is going to be replaced. And here is the other bearing, and oh look, that seal was damaged. My. That must have been me. Be careful guys, don't do that. Alright, and there is the sensor, that sensor there. That's the ABS ESP sensor, which is why you need the special seal with the magnet in it, and this seal does not have it. Do not buy aftermarket. Alright, let me get this cleaned up. Once I've got it cleaned up, then I'll show you how we get this apart and put the new bearings in. Alright, time to take the seal out. You will need one of these. Whilst you can do it without, this is probably the best tool for doing it. And get it tucked under the edge and yank away. And of course it's gonna be tough to get out. Couldn't be easy, could it? No. Alright, I'm going to have to get a persuader on this, and in fact what I think I'll do is get this in the bench and hold it there. Get this in the bench, get this in the vise, because then I'm not struggling with it, am I? There we go. Now in theory, now this should be a lot easier. Oh, look at that. There it goes. Alright, the seal came out. And of course the bearing fell out with it. Oh, and look, that thing fell off on there too. Yeah, this is definitely not a magnetic seal. Although I've got to prove it to myself. No, that... Oh shit, it was magnetic. Wow. It means then I must have just damaged it. Oh dear, now I feel even more stupid. Welcome to my world, guys. Oh well, okay, it's out. Oh, now, got to put the new bearings in. First, what I do need to do is drift out the races. That one in there's got like a little edge that I can get to. And then once I've got this little one out, I should be able to get the big one out. I do have to do this on the bench. So it's time for mini anvil. Here we go, Mr. Mini Anvil. That is very helpful. Gives it a nice solid base. Alright, let me hammer and chisel. And chisel. Let's get a bigger hammer. As you've no doubt seen before, they have a selection. Just got to make sure get it in the right spot, otherwise you will regret it. There she goes. Not quite out yet. Let's make sure it's not bottomed. It has. Okay, so I'm at my limit now. What I need to do is raise that up on a couple of blocks of wood. I wish that guy would hurry up and finish his Jaguar. Just can't get the staff, can you? Especially as I'm the staff. Alright. Now, hopefully this will work. And now keeping everything nice and central. Alright, here we go. There you go. Just needed that little bit of extra room. Okay, so that's that one out. Now it's time to get the other one out. I'm afraid you probably can't see in there. The angle's a lot more tight. Well, we'll do it. We'll get there. Just gotta try and get it on the edge, and it's very tricky. So the angle's a little steep. Sorry you're not getting a good view of this. It is important that I do. Alright, this is going to be pretty boring. I'm going to turn the camera off now, and we'll come back to me pressing it in. Another trick. I'm going to use the old races that I knocked out to push the new ones in. But what I am going to do is I'm going to trim them down a bit. In there. Just roll them around to evenly take off some metal. Doesn't have to be a tremendous amount. It's just enough so that it's going to slide in and out reasonably easy, and so it doesn't get stuck in
to the race journal. Alright, that should be enough. And just taking that edge off. And the new ones, as you all know, I am a great freezer freak, and I have the new ones currently in the freezer. I'll leave them in there for a couple of hours. That way they'll shrink, and everything goes in a lot easier doing it this way. Just don't tell your wife that you're putting car parts in the freezer. She might have a hissy fit. Alright, hopefully you can see this. I've just tapped this in slightly now, using the old one. Of course, if you've got a press, which I have, you could do this in a press. And that is slowly going in. You may not be able to see it, I can tell. And this really is the most awkward part of this process. Strange though that may seem. The rest of it's a piece of piss. And as I mentioned, I have ground the edges down so it's not sticking when it gets home, and that looks like it's home, and it certainly sounded like it. I'm just going to give it one last tap. Yep, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. Everything is done now, and obviously I can use these on the other side. Next is to grease the bearings, and in particular the one that goes in here. And the reason this one in particular, because this has to be in there when I put the seal in, which I can't do yet. And I have a I have a piston which has been made into an ashtray and was actually given to me by my son for when I smoked, and I don't smoke anymore. But it is the perfect size, so I will be using that to drift the seal in. I'm not sure whether I should take this cork off or not. It might be a good idea to leave it on there. I'm gonna have to see how it goes, and if not, then I'll take the cork off. We will see. All right, here is the bearing dry that goes in there, and the seal that goes in afterwards. But first, we need to pack this with grease. Now, this is just the way I do it. I put a bodger geese grease on one side, and I push it in from one side only. And then when it comes out the other side, I know I've got grease everywhere. And believe me, it gets everywhere. So look out for that. So yep, just keep on pushing it on, pushing it on, pushing it on. I know you can get special tools to do this, but this is much more fun. Just keep on pushing it in. Not coming out yet. Whoop. And if you're looking at my fingers saying, "Oh my God, he's got dirty hands. There must be lots of grit in there." Well, there isn't. My hands are actually clean. They are so stained because of the work I've been doing recently. There we go. That's coming through now. This takes a while to do. So, patience, and it's kind of therapeutic, really. Let's get in there. It's not there yet. Alright, I'm going to continue to do this off camera, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to put the seal in. Right, this is really the final piece you need to know if you've never done this before.
Obviously, if you've taken the rotor off, you know how to put it back on, and the same with the caliper. The final bit is getting this end float. Now, you could be, fancy, get an end float gauge and do it that way, but let's face it, most of you don't have that kind of equipment. So, the simple method with these particular bearings, they're called taper bearings for obvious reasons. They go in at a taper. Now, you can do this with the rotor on or with the rotor off. I like to do it with the rotor on purely because it gives me something to grab hold of. So this nut here, once you've got it on, just keep spinning this as you turn it and tighten it, and back it off, and turn it and tighten it again, and back it off and turn it and tighten it again. I mean, yeah, 3 times. Do you need to do 3 times? Maybe not, but I do. I like to do that. Now that is tight now. Tight as in, I can't get that nut any tighter unless I put a wrench on it. Really, you don't need to do that. They are taper bearings, though. Then once you've got it as tight as you can with your fingers, just back it off a fraction so that it goes loose, and then just bring it up. And that should be the perfect setting, which will allow a little bit of end float. Not much, probably 1/1000th of an inch, if that. Okay, and that's it. As I said, you just back it off, and then just gently bring it back up again. Hold it there, and lock that baby off. Don't really want this coming undone. And worst case scenario, if you didn't get it tight enough, it'll make a little noise, and then you go, ooh, that must be the bearing I did. But I doubt that will happen. And do make sure you pack that baby full of grease. I put so much grease in there, you can't believe it. Grease is cheap. There it is. I mean, and that's running beautifully smooth now. Alright, so the next thing I will do is I'm going to shove a load more grease in this cap, slap it on, tap it on with a hammer. Unfortunately, it is rather been bent, for want of a better word, over the years, so it won't get on there perfectly, but I will get it on, and it will keep the grease in. Then it's a matter of putting the caliper back on, putting the pads back in, putting the wheel back on, driving down the road and going, oh goody goody, the light's gone out. Fingers crossed. Let's hope that's true.